Logic and Reason starts now. Welcome, everybody.
Welcome.
It is a new day today, or I guess night. I'm your host, Evo Primo. I'm joined by Mel Melissa. Welcome in this Tuesday night. We have a great show for you today. And like all things, we have to take care of business first before we can have fun. And for you guys, that means to like and subscribe and push the bell notifications.
Let's go.
So today, we're talking about the Texas Senate bill that was passed. It's Bill 1933. And if you didn't know, last week, Thursday really, this bill was passed to empower the Secretary of State to seize election authority over county officials. This is an interesting move for the state, and so we're going to dive into this to see how did we get here, and also offer our perspective as course. If you guys don't know what show this is Logic and Reason, where we discuss topics that impact society and seek to understand the logic and reasoning behind them. We record each show live, so the reactions are unedited and unfiltered. How you doing this Tuesday?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm ready to see what the story's about. So before we get into this, we have to do some homework.
Okay.
Do you guys happen to know who the Texas Secretary of State is? I got to be honest with you. I didn't know before the show.
I have to admit, I did not as well, but only because there was a power change. Actually, no. Even before that, because I didn't know the lady's name, I just knew her description, and it did not match the new person.
Yes. So this new person, Jane Nielsen, she was appointed this year, January 5th, by our great Governor Gregabbott. And so for those who don't know, she is labeled as a businesswoman, a former teacher who served 2 terms on the State Board of Education, and she spent 30 years in the as a state senator representing the Northern District. So
30 years?
30 years. I have no idea who this lady was. Of course, I don't live in North Texas. North Texas is really broad. I don't know what that means.
That is pretty broad.
That could be the Panhandle. That could be Dallas area. For those who happen to know, please leave that in the comments below. So anyway, so she could, in theory, take over any county who happens to have some issues. Now, I had to go back in time because I was like, how did we get to this point? Usually when you see a bill like this, you have to think about it. Things don't happen in a vacuum, right? Things aren't random. It comes from somewhere. And so I went back in time, back in 2018, and that was when Mr. Stannard was defeated by Diane Trapman. And that was I guess it was an upset. This happened during the Blue Wave. I think Beto was running during that election.
Yep. Leading the way, or trying to lead the way, and it didn't really work out for his own personal campaign, but
he got
a lot of people.
Absolutely. So she was able to run the Democratic ticket into office, and she did some good things. She was able to implement a countywide voting centers. So basically, no matter where you are in Harris County, you could go to your local poll station and be able to vote there. And that was tremendous. I don't know if I just was unaware. Actually, I was aware. I remember having to try to figure out where your polling station was. And I was like, I had to find some random elementary school from in a place that I've never been at. And if you happen to work, like, nowhere near where you live, it becomes very problematic. So,
as a lot of Texans do. So
correct.
Yeah.
So this was really huge. And I remember, at this time I was working downtown. And so I was able to actually vote downtown and not have to worry about trying to find the polling station where I lived. So that was really good. Unfortunately, this gravy train did not last very long. And Ms. Trapman did actually step down 16 months into her first term. And she claims it was due to illness or threats to safety and health issues. So she apparently had some underlying health issues. She's older. She's like 70 at this time.
Okay.
And so COVID was right in the thick of things. That is what she told the media. Now, I don't know if that tells the full story, because towards the end of her tenure, she had a couple of voting issues with reporting.
You don't say. Coinciding with this wanting to leave office.
Right. So, according to the Houston Chronicle, both major elections that Diane Chapman were involved in and oversaw had problems. A full tally of votes in the past November's election of that time were not available for nearly 12 hours, and headaches plagued that whole process. Chapman was blamed for inconsistent guidance, but she said that she was getting inconsistent guidance from the Secretary of State at that time. And so, that kind of, we don't really know who's at fault there. Some of the Democratic voters waited long hours in lines in the primary election, which that seems to be a running theme as we kind of go through the different parts of this history. And so we start to see, I don't know if this was an issue before her, like if Stan Sternert had some issues. I imagine this is one of those situations where this was always a problem, but because she was a Democrat and new and, brought in this really, I wouldn't call it radical, but a fresh take to the voting process to make it easier for people to vote, that, she became a target. So that's my own personal opinion on that. I didn't work with her, but she worked kind of close to where I worked, and she seemed like she, knew what she was doing. But anyway, so she ends up stepping down. June of 2020, that is when Chris Hollins steps into the role as county clerk. And so let me go ahead and actually, bada bing here. So he ends up getting appointed. And I remember during this time, this is Diane Chapman, by the way. I remember during this time that this was a huge controversy because the Republicans of Harris County were just like, this is a Democrat being appointed. And it's like, well, there was a Democrat that was in the office. So
yeah,
it kind of makes sense. And that was, regardless of whether you want to say it's because of the blue wave or not, the people did vote for that person.
The people have voted.
Right. So
honor the people's vote.
That's what it is. Right. So Chris Hollins comes in. He's an attorney, native Houstonian, has worked for the Democratic Party, and steps in here. I remember just hearing some things around the office about how, how well he was doing, and trying to keep people in communications with each other and keeping things organized. And so I don't remember there being any issues when he was the county clerk. I could be wrong on that, but as far as I'm concerned, I didn't really hear any major things from him.
Yeah, I didn't really catch any complaints in the research.
Same. And so then he decides that he does not want to run for re-election, which everyone thought that he was going to. And I guess it would have been nice if he did, but he had other things he wanted to do. We found out later that it was mainly because he was trying to gear up to run for mayor. And so that's a whole nother conversation, because they ended up actually not happening as recently as, I guess, 8 days ago. But yes, that was the reason why he didn't want to run for re-election. But then at this time, we're looking at now August of 2020. Commissioner's Court for Harris County decided that they wanted to create a new office, right? Because right now it's convoluted, and we want to find a way to make this process simpler and maybe more organized, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a graphic that I have that maybe I'm not going to be able to find because I need it. It's one of those situations where once you need something,
Isn't that how that works?
it's usually how that works.
That's all right.
Here we go.
We'll see if we can get it to the people.
Give it to the peoples.
While you're waiting, you guys can like and subscribe. You know, I won't miss my chance to say that and tap the notification bell.
Please don't miss your chance.
Yes.
All right, so I'm gonna show you guys this real quick.
Yeah, let's take a look.
All right, so just to give you guys a really quick crash course here. Before this 2020 decision, the county clerk was the office that handled polling and ballot counting, right? And the tax assessor's office and the tax collector's office was responsible for actual voter registration. And so these two offices work together. Because of that, I imagine there was some room for errors to occur or maybe slower processes because you're working with two different governmental offices. And so what Commissioners Court ultimately tried to do is take these elements that were initially separate, put them in a separate office and allow the county clerk to still do some of the other things that they were responsible for. Because the county clerk was also responsible for marriage licenses and probate court and all these different things that do soak up time, and birth certificates and all that stuff. So, they already had a lot on their plate. Obviously, the tax collector's office is responsible for taxes and foreclosures, things like that.
Okay.
And so putting them in together in this one office, now you have a new office called the Elections Administrator's Office, which now is supposed to administer the polling and ballot counting as well as voter registrar.
How specific? Okay.
Right. So on the surface, that doesn't sound bad.
Yeah.
Right? What can go wrong with that?
Uh-oh. It sounds like possibly something went wrong.
Went
awry.
I don't want to say something went awry. It's more of any time that we try to do something new and different, we always seem to have opposition. I remember the conversations around that time. Everyone was like uppity about setting up this new office, and obviously that means appointing another officer. I think it was a split thing. Yep, it was split 3-2. The court, but eventually the court did actually pass this. So they moved some of the budget away from those two offices, put it into this new office, and now they have to go through the process of appointing somebody. Lena Hidalgo was quoted saying, "I think this is the right thing to do for elections in Harris County." What struck me the most was when there's been a certain increase in voting eligibility population in Harris County, and there hasn't been a way to increase registration. So exactly, that's a net decrease for the voters, given what we're all to be doing, and we need to do better at this, and I'm happy to support this move. Precinct 1 Commissioner Rodney Ellis was saying that, does he have a quote here? He does not. Okay, never mind. Scratch what I just said.
Oh, no, I mean, yeah, it wasn't exactly a quote. It's just their summarization, I guess, of what he said. Okay.
Commissioner Cagle, said that I believe that our elected officials are the ones who should be making these decisions as opposed to appointed officials, which that is a very good point. And I think that's kind of, if you guys pay attention to that little nugget, that's going to play a role here. That's interesting. He says, why don't they allow the tax assessor and the county clerk to weigh in on this process? So I guess they weren't even involved in the process of making this new office, which is really strange because you would think the people who've been doing this for years, since the creation of our county, you would want to have them be involved in the process of creating this new office. But that's a good point from Jack Cagle. I mean, I'm always going to be in favor of letting the people make decisions. And whenever you have appointed offices, that's not allowing the people to make that choice. That's Hidalgo's choice. That's not my choice.
That's a unilateral vote. Okay. Or choice, not a vote.
Right. Now, Granted, the Commissioner's Court was voting on this, but right now, how Commissioner's Court is, you have 3 Democrats and 2 Republicans, so it's whatever the Democrats want to do.
Yeah, because they have majority. So I would be incorrect in saying unilateral because it's not one vote, but it does express one voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't
And the
see
Democrats,
why couldn't they just have a special election, tell people what this office is supposed to be, and then have people run for the position like all the other positions.
Yeah.
And then have a vote on it.
They can do that. Texans show up to vote.
Sure.
We love a good vote.
Especially when it comes to the person who's going to be running voting.
Yes.
Right? You would think that people would be more interested in that election.
Maybe they didn't want people to see the switch. Or they didn't think about it.
That sounds shady. Not gonna lie. It's kind of messed up. So, you guys are probably wondering, all right, so who gets appointed to this position?
The lucky person.
Isabel Longoria was sworn as the Harris County's first ever elections administrator. Right? Most people didn't know who she was. Apparently, she was a special advisor to Chris Hollins at some point. So maybe that's cool. Special advisor could mean a lot of different things. I don't really know what that means. That could have been, hey, Chris was definitely a people person, and he would also ask people around the neighborhood, hey, what do you think? What do you think? So it could have been one of those types of situations. I don't know.
Or just for writing like reports.
Yeah. So that could literally mean anything.
Yeah.
So anyway.
A lot of these political positions don't really have a full description that we could have. I don't want to say that we couldn't understand, but we don't necessarily know.
Yeah. Voting is power. That's why we established this office of the elected elections administrator, and that's why we want to appoint the most qualified and credible person to this position. Now, is that in fact the truth, Ms. Hidalgo?
The truth is what I say it is?
Yeah. As my grandmother would always say, the story is as the storyteller tells it. I also remember this part. So one of the other hot points of contention was the salary of this person, because they're making $190,000 a year.
Outrageous.
And if I'm not mistaken, most of the elected officials, like the judges and whatnot, are making somewhere between 140 and 160.
What's wrong?
We don't even know who this person is. We don't even know if you can do the job.
We don't. We don't.
And on top of that, I remember this conversation. I don't know if Jack Cagle said this or Raddick, but they were saying, hey, this person's making more money than the county clerk with fewer responsibilities.
Now that is interesting. You remove some of the responsibilities, and then you get paid more? How does that work?
It doesn't. That's me.
The position's now a little bit more valuable with less tasks?
I don't know.
We wanted an incentive to keep this person on a long time.
Maybe Hidalgo was sensing inflation in the next couple of years, and so she was like, "Let me go ahead and pad up this job here."
How thoughtful of her.
I don't know. I have no idea. So the funny part about this, right? So she's not here very long, Miss Longoria, because within not a couple of months, but within like the first election that she's supposed to be in charge of, she sends in her resignation.
Isn't that the whole job? To administer the elections?
Yes.
And in the first, okay. All right, I'll let you continue.
All right, so the office was created in 2020, right?
Yes.
And so 2021 is when I think she took office.
Okay.
And within a year, she's out.
This position's not for me anymore?
It'll be really interesting to see what she actually said about it. So, Harris County Elections Administrator Isabel Longoria will resign in July, she announced on Tuesday to Commissioner's Court. Is there a reasoning? Here we go. I remain committed to the office and its mission and hope to aid in defeating harmful rhetoric that ensure successful elections in the future.
Right.
Well, I wonder what is the rhetoric that she's referring to is the commentary of delayed voting, missing ballots. I mean, all the, I would say, I guess, critiques.
Critiques, yeah.
Right. So, anyway.
People not knowing how to use the machines properly, those kind of things. Yeah.
So this announcement came as Republican leaders called for the county to reverse changes to the way it administers elections, which the Democratic majority and the Commissioners Court implemented in 2020. Those calls follow long delays releasing the voting counts on primary elections night in the election night, in the news that the administrator failed to tally 10,000 mail-in ballots. County Commissioner Tom Ramsey led the effort with a proposal that Longoria be fired and be disbanded from the office. In my opinion, the repetitive dysfunction and the unelected and frankly unaccountable county elections administrator Longoria is simply unbelievable, Mr. Ramsey said. Clearly, she is not qualified, or clearly she does not understand what it takes to run an election of this magnitude and maybe of any magnitude. And I honestly think that if this happened like in 2005,
okay,
right, I don't think it would be this big of a deal. But I do remember the last several elections have been very chaotic and every vote counts kind of thing, because we're getting so divided, and it's becoming war in the political realm. And so maybe the attention here is just because like these elections mean so much and people are willing to do whatever to win. And if there's an opportunity there to exploit something, maybe somebody will.
Yeah.
I don't understand why there were so many problems, because I don't remember there being so many problems prior years.
Yeah.
So what fundamentally changed? Is it because of maybe new laws that were passed in the state, right, that they have to try to implement? I remember the very last election that we just had.
Mm-hmm.
I was really confused to see this paper.
Oh, with
the paper ballots. Well, the fact that
to see a physical paper, yes.
The fact that you have to physically put a paper in the machine.
Now I was confused about my memory because I voted in and out of the state when I moved, and I moved back, and then I thought Texas had already been done with that.
I don't remember ever having a paper in all the elections I've participated in. I've, for the most part, participated in all of them.
Yeah.
That was a new thing.
Yeah, because I do recall only using the machines while here.
Yes.
And then
that's normal.
I've lived in other states that decided to use paper and pencil. Okay, so that was some kind of substitute. So I don't care about being fair to her. I really don't. But playing a little bit of a advocate, or seeing some of those years were obviously leading up to, because she never got to the point of actually going through a whole election cycle. So they were there before she got there, and like you said, there were heightened problems before that. It doesn't excuse putting someone who's unqualified, because if there were so many problems, or as there were so many problems as you've shown us, then you would probably want someone, a seasoned professional, but maybe someone not so attached to the old system, and maybe a team.
Well, she was supposed to build a team.
Okay.
Right. I remember she had job openings in the portal that people could go to apply for. And so,
okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I know that the printing thing was definitely a problem. I don't know where that came from, but she did say here that Longoria herself blamed errors with new voting machines. So somewhere in the process, they got new machines, and these machines require printing and scanning paper ballots, which sounds completely backwards to me. I don't know if this was the parties that made this change, or if it was her, or if it was a state. But whoever made this change, that doesn't seem like a great direction forward. That seems like a regression.
It does. Everyone else is moving forward in technology, and we decided to move backward.
Yeah. I know one of the things that was talking about was the ID, which
that has been a serious point of contention.
Yeah, which it impacts I didn't realize how much it impacted people. If you just have a passport as your ID, but that doesn't count, that you need to have a driver's license or a state ID specifically. I thought there were more options than that. But apparently that was also a new change that happened. That was Senate Bill 1, if I'm not mistaken, that added some new things in there that people have labeled as voter suppression. So can I blame her for all of it? I don't think I can, because I don't know enough about it. But I also know that whoever's decision it was to make those new machines that require paper, nothing in 2000 anything should require paper. So, this.
You kind of have a bias against paper, though.
I don't have a bias against paper. It's just more of.
Or you prefer to use electronic things when available.
It's not like if your whole objective is to increase accuracy and increase speed, there's no way that paper can increase speed.
Absolutely. I cannot argue with you on that, because yes, that would be a major cause of delay for an election.
Correct. So if people are wanting the results, I mean, if you did a survey, let's dumb it down. If you did a survey on paper versus doing a survey through, a Survey Monkey or Google surveys or whatever kind of platform you want. If you want to know how many surveys you've done, if you want to know the results of those, you're a click away from getting that information. If you have paper, you have to have a team, or maybe if you don't have a team, you have to spend hours and hours and hours trying to count it. And as we know, everyone gets tired and fatigue can set in, and then you start making errors whenever you get tired.
You have to implement the human error ratio in there.
So there's no room for paper in this type of space. Whenever this stuff that's really counting on like the results of this election or anything of serious magnitude, you need to eliminate as many errors as possible. And having people trying to physically count anything is a problem. Or having votes on paper that can easily get lost. Paper can get lost. Somebody can take a sheet of paper and throw it in the trash, and all of a sudden that vote's gone.
Anything happens to it, yeah. And these people are there all day, so, and even having a cup of water nearby or something could spill on things.
Boom,
something
done.
Get destroyed. Yeah.
So I mean, I don't see.
And you're keeping people who aren't getting paid that much to be an elections administrator. They're keeping them all night, almost, like, to count votes in certain counties. So
yeah, it's not a bias against paper. It's just more of paper doesn't work here.
That's a good argument.
There's too many errors.
It's different when we didn't have the option. So I don't know if there's if there's funding issues or what's necessary, but definitely I would have to agree with you on the digital change, even though I am a fan of paper and handwritten for your individual personal things.
Oh, okay. So this is good to know here. So I was wondering about the election night waits. One of the things that I remember Diane Trapman wanted to do was to increase early voting so that the election day itself wasn't so taxing. And especially because as this little thing here, Harris County has had a long election night, has had long election nights waits before, particularly under the county clerk, Dan Standard, or Stan Standard. Ooh,
what a name.
Yeah.
What a name.
But now of those elections came close to roughly 30 hours to tally the votes in 2022.
Oh, none of those came close? Okay.
Yeah. So
Stan was Stan.
Stan was Stan. Sorry, I'm really tired, guys. So bear with me on this reading stuff. It's been a long day. So yes, so we didn't have the amount of delays that we've seen in recent elections, and I think part of that has to do with our population increase and the fact that there has been a more effort in getting people registered to vote. So naturally, there's just more votes to go through, and you haven't fixed any of the problems that you had before. And that's what I think. I think this is more of a compounding thing. I don't think this is like this is her problem, or this is person's fault, this person's fault. This is a combination of people kicking the can down the road and issues that were medium-sized before become larger when there's more at stake and there's more people involved.
What? it doesn't get solved, just delay.
Correct.
And adding more people.
So, yeah, so going back to the timeline, Longoria resigns, right?
Yeah.
In natural order, anytime a white woman is resigning from the office,
Oh, dear.
you got to get a black dude to play cleanup. So, naturally, we have a guy named Clifford Tatum.
Let's go, Clifford.
Comes through as the next appointed administrator for this office. Now, at this point, I'm not sure if I would take this gig. I mean, this job, or I mean, I guess you have to kind of fact, there's been two different offices, but you've seen so much turnover. I mean, it's been a bunch of chaos with this job from the start.
Maybe he's a fixer, or he was a fixer. I don't know.
So, new Harris County Elections Administrator was appointed by Elections Commission Tuesday, making him one step closer to officially starting his new role. This was back in, there's no timestamp here? There's no timestamp.
Really?
There probably was. Hell, let me try to check it out real quick.
Okay.
I'll put on. So this was back in, oh, there's not. All right, cool. Well, this is sometime after her. So I imagine this is 2022.
Yeah, still within the same time frame. Because they didn't waste time to fill the position. It needed to be filled because there was an election coming. Right. So, yeah.
I think everything points to a direction that he'll be a successful leader. What is his background? I think he came from D.C. He also did some stuff in Georgia. Here we go. He has a wealth of experience coming from Georgia, coming from Washington, D.C. He has a law degree, which helps. This was Otis. Otis said this. Otis at that time was the chair of the Democratic Party in Harris County. The only person that didn't vote for him was the chair for the Republican Party, but it seemed like everyone else voted for him. Yes, Sagel says in an article was recently released about the election of Tatum overseeing, saying long ballots, machines not working, people's ballots not programmed correctly, was supposedly his history in some of the other places that he was in. And I'm wondering if this machine thing is the fact that whoever the manufacturer is not doing their job with, usually they send a rep.
Yep.
Anytime you buy a new software for a company, the company you buy it from typically sends a rep down to teach your employees how to use it. I wonder if this was the case here.
That's a good point.
Yeah. But anyway,
it could be them.
Siegel.
By then they've made their money and they're out of the picture.
So the chair of the Republican Party, Sidney Siegel, said that I'm just wanting to avoid what we've had before, which was the fiasco that we had back in March. So I guess that's the main reason why she voted no. But everyone else voted yes to this guy.
But did she have an alternative option she was putting it forth?
No.
So
that was not the case.
A question I do have about him, or about the situation while they were hiring him. Did he get the offer that Longoria got of $190,000 a year?
I hope he did. It'd be really messed up if all of a sudden when he comes in here, we gotta work on this budget. Sorry.
Budget cuts.
Yeah, budget cuts.
We don't have enough for you.
COVID.
Figure it out, man.
Right. So he takes office. We still have some issues, and this sparks what I think first started seeing a stream of lawsuits. So Harris County election mishaps fuel GOP lawsuit and calls for an investigation. So scattered paper ballots, shortages, late openings at poll places, glitches, all this stuff is happening. And so they are taking this opportunity to go ahead and send in those motions.
Yeah, what a nightmare.
Harris County elected officials are again facing criticism and calling for increased scrutiny, this time including the state Republican leadership over Election Day issues as the county continues to grapple with running an effective election in a county as large as some that are in the state. And usually when they're talking about large counties, they're usually talking about, unfortunately, Harris County. The mishaps have prompted the Harris County District Attorney to launch an investigation in allegations of irregularities, with the latest in Harris County elections that potentially may include criminal conduct. In May, not in May, but on a Monday email, Kim Ogg, a Democrat, asked the Texas Rangers to assist in that investigation. Interesting how she was leading this. That's peculiar. She's a Democrat. So, yeah. I guess I can read this. Ogg's request, first reported by the New York Times, obtained by the Texas Tribune, was sent hours after Republican Governor Gregabbott called for an investigation into problems voters encountered on Election Day last week, pointing to late polling places opening, paper ballot shortages, and staffing issues. And I remember this election because I always early vote, so because I hate dealing with lines and all that stuff. I never vote on Election Day, and quite frankly, I don't know why people wait until the last minute to vote anyway, because it's always a nightmare. And you would think you would want to not deal with that the next year. So I don't know. I don't know those people who vote on Election Day. That's not me.
I don't know them either.
No, that's
Shout out
you.
to the last minute voters. Shout out to the last minute taxpayers. Today is April 18th. If you have not filed yet, this is not part of the show, but I'm going to go ahead and implement it. You still have time. It's not, well, depending if you live in, you still have time on Eastern time to file for an extension request from the IRS. Beg them before midnight.
Stop doing
Shout out
your
to the
stuff
last
late.
minute people.
Stop doing stuff
and
late.
I'm not last minute because this was the third company filing I had to do. So I filed on time for the other ones. But the other ones were done weeks before. Why are you giving me... Okay, see, this is why we need to go on video so you can see the staring.
We didn't have to talk about taxes. We could just talk about the fact that you tried to vote on Election Day.
Are you going to say the context?
I'm the one telling the story.
Oh, the story is as a storyteller tells it. I just stole one of his grandmother's phrases as well. Yeah. I did. You want me to lie? To our viewers, our lovely viewers and audience and listeners who have liked, subscribed, tapped the notification bell, joined us this evening on their Tuesday night because they love us. You love us. Okay, let's get back in. You want to hear this contention here at these elections?
All right, so
I was ill, by the way, so I drugged myself there,
and
I had to sit down the whole time with the line. Yeah.
All
I'm
right.
not gonna go there.
2 months after Election Day, Harris County still does not know if polling site problems kept people from voting. We still don't know. And part of the problem is they did not have some type of software or some type of way to keep tabs on progress, which other counties supposedly have. And so why we didn't have this, who knows? There's a bunch of reasons why Harris County, as big as it is, still seems behind on a lot of different things. It's kind of annoying, really, because it's like we get in our own way a lot of times. But anyway, to figure out the scope of the ballot paper problem, Tatum said he had to rely on anecdotal information from the office received directly from calls of more than 700 presiding judges and alternative judges, because he did not have adequate tracking system to help him see whether an issue at the polling place was addressed or resolved. How do you not know if your problems were resolved or not? How do you run out of paper?
So this is another part of the argument that would go towards your side on the non-paper route is digital. You're not going to run out of paper.
You're going to run out of digital
space. Well, if you don't have enough of a memory card, as I've learned from somebody.
Yeah, but something like this, a document file doesn't take up much space.
Okay.
So I don't think space would be an issue when it comes to documents.
And it would probably been far more reliable than actually running out of paper. And so voting literally has to stop. This is an atrocity. I am not even being sarcastic here, because I believe everyone should get their civic duty on and go and vote. Early voting as possible, like this gentleman over here next to me. But anytime in there, get your vote on. And it's unfortunate that the people who got there and were ready to vote couldn't vote because of paper.
Yes. Election administrators in Dallas and Tarrant County use an effective system to track problems at polling sites in real time, which they say is essential to their operation. This system can be purchased online and costs between $30,000 and $40,000 a year. Well worth the investment, I would say. And we have plenty of money to throw on a bunch of random stuff. We can shell out $40,000 for some software.
The Texas budget is tight.
No. This is Harris County tight. If you have enough money,
the county budget is tight.
If you have enough money to give out stuff to needy families, or to women who who've had domestic violence issues.
And they've stayed on that topic forever.
They stayed on that forever. Not saying that you shouldn't give money to those people, but what I am saying is this seems to be a need.
No, and to put more context behind it before our listeners are like, is that was during the pandemic when everyone's suffering, and it was like an excessive amount. It was like at least a 4 times amount ratio. Like it was $200,000 versus, 50 was going to COVID or something like that. It was something ridiculous. And they were over inflating the thing. And of course, like you said, not to take away from the actual victims who do need help. But, and the vetting process for the other ones, for the free money to the families, there wasn't really one when they couldn't verify, which houses were going to. And it was supposed to be for housing, but then you also have to prove that you're a Texas resident, which also goes to other issues with, citizenship and all that. But they found the money. So point blank period.
And I think as far as priorities is concerned, I think you need to get the operations of the county settled with first, and then whatever money you have left over, you can give to humanitarian efforts. You got to take care of business first. And right now, our county's a laughingstock. Like we have too many problems. And I don't know why we have so many problems, but I would put effort into trying to eliminate a bunch of problems so that I can stop being in the news. Like, I think that would probably be the thing I would want to do. Like, all right, let's figure out our house. These humanitarian efforts need to be on pause until we make sure, do we have all the stuff we need? Is the car fully functional?
I think that the key word you just said there is and of course I lost it. I was going to say the humanitarian efforts, but I don't know. I lost it.
So, all right. We did all this monkey dance. You guys are probably, man, we've been going through all this timeline stuff for the past 40-something minutes. We haven't even gotten into the bill yet. Well, I figured it was actually important to go through that context in order for us to understand why we're here. Why did we get to this point? All right, so now we finally get to the point where Texas Senate passes this bill to seize control of elections from local authorities, right? So This bill gives the Secretary of State, Jan Nielsen, the authority to take over any county in Texas, their election. What does this bill actually say? I think you have a copy of it.
I do have a copy pulled up here on the screen.
See what we got here.
Go ahead and see what I get here. All right, guys, you know how exciting Texas code is. I'm going to try and make it as alluring and attractive for your
That's an uphill
ears.
battle.
And sultry, get my sultry voice on. Drop a 1 in the chat if my voice is getting better. I've been working on my skills and have to make this about me for a second. Anyways, as he said, administrative control is going to the Secretary of State. People are saying it's power grab, but let's see what it actually says. Literally, we can just go right into, has a section, the code number 31.017, which is, of course, under the initial bill, SB 1933. The administrative oversight is if, I'm going to skip all the other section because we've already discussed that, is only allowed if, 1, an administrative election complaint is filed with the Secretary of State, which it has been, actually multiple complaints, and 2, the Secretary of State has good cause to believe that a recurring pattern of problems with election administration or voter registration exists in the county. Now, before we get into including what is included in that, I think we've demonstrated here with some of the stuff Devo Primo has mentioned, that there is a recurring pattern. Year over year over year. Continuous issues with the voting. And we've gone back and forth on the, smaller part of, paper, no paper, which I kind of made like a non-issue. But it causes issues with the voting. And so now we get into here and see what are some of the things that would cause the Secretary of State to have good cause. Because what is good cause? Being a Republican, being a Democrat, being on the left or right? No. Good cause is A, a malfunction of voting system equipment. B, unfair distribution of election supplies. C, errors in tabulation of results. D, delays in reporting of election returns. E, discovery of voted ballots after the polls have closed. Or E, failure to conduct maintenance activities.
That's
unlisted registered voters as required under the code. And that's literally the only section. There's a whole bunch of other jargon in here, but it basically is every section repeats over and over that it's administrative oversight activities. So this is the part we need.
The point E that was there, I actually forgot to mention this in the timeline. One of the issues that we saw was the fact that they found mail-in ballots after the no, that wasn't it. It was two issues. They found some votes, but also because of the delays at, I think it was like 3 different locations. Because of the delays, there were people who voted after 7 p.m.
Okay.
And the Secretary of State had to weigh in on whether or not those votes should be counted.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the people's fault. They were there before 7.
But the rules say that voting ends at 7.
Correct. But you didn't start early, you didn't start on time. Not even start early. You didn't start on time.
Yes, and there was a significant portion of time that was removed from the voting period.
Yes, that delayed everything. So that was a whole issue. And I think part of that problem was the fact that you had to switch the settings on the machines the day before, and somebody didn't reset it, or they turned the machines off instead of turning the new setting on. It was some type of technical error that the staff didn't do, which that type of stuff happens when you have new equipment and you have a really quick turnaround and people aren't prepared.
And then you lose votes.
And then you have people saying, oh, this election was rigged, or all the votes weren't counted, or this and that. And that might affect who is actually in that office. So we have to figure this out. I don't know if this is the right move. I'm always going to be in favor of having the voters vote, but the problem with the voters voting is the fact that this is a voting issue. So yeah. Even if we have the voters vote, are those votes going to get counted? Because we seem to not be able to administer elections effectively. And we've had this issue for years.
Yeah. And it's only gotten worse, as you mentioned earlier, the divisiveness. Of course, I mean, wouldn't you think if your party lost that, maybe they had something to do with it? Especially more of the conspiracy theories, the ideas, and,
right.
You would think, maybe they did something. And then you start spreading that around. But let's see what some of the Texans thought.
Sure. Go for it.
Now I'm going to take it with a grain of salt. It comes from the ACLU of Texas, which is a legal advocacy organization. And so they just basically stated what we said, that the bill was passed. And they added their own thing in there because there's a separate issue going on in Harris County right now. Just like the Houston ISD, the governor is trying to override voters to replace leaders he can't control. So they obviously have a opinion that it's a Republican issue. So let's see. Tony Diaz, terrible. We have Yoda saying Republicans are fascist, Republicans are corrupt, or hashtag, and that other people are surprised, saying, wait, what? Oh, I clicked on one. Someone said, I assume this is going to be a challenge in courts. And so I actually saw a couple of tweets where people were wondering, is this going to be something there's going to be an appeal? Can this be appealed? Maybe we'll have little funny memes. I think further down there was some kind of image.
Yeah, I know somebody tried to equate this to the takeover of HISD.
Yes. We had some people pissed. people tweeting directly at Governor Abbott saying stop his campaign of hate, and they have a smaller person, under someone's shoe. So people aren't taking kindly to this,
Nice.
So, I don't know. It's a bunch of other stuff on there. But, people need to stop being so divisive. You're right, voting is a nonpartisan thing, and everyone has the right to exercise their choice of who they would want, and we should make that process as smooth as possible. So, if there are malfunctions, which have been proven, that's, and actually with the rule, it said including any of those things that were listed. So really, it's like, as soon as you had one, everyone remember back in grade school, any, all, many, more, it says any. So any one of those things is a problem and would give the rights, whether we like it or not, on either side of the aisle, or even as just voters, citizens, the Secretary of State would have good cause. That's just the rule. If we don't like the rule, we need to vote in people who are going to change the rule then.
So several thoughts that I have right now on this one. One, I don't really know what the Secretary of State can do about this.
Okay.
She doesn't have any voting background. Her background was in education, and then she was a senator, but she hasn't ran elections. So it's like, what ultimately is she going to do? Granted, I do know that each county submits stuff to the Secretary of State, right?
Yes. So I do hope they lean more on the administrative oversight, which the part of heavily leaning on the word oversight.
But I don't know what oversight does.
Well, if you're saying submitting reports, typically, I would like to believe government officials and businesses run the books properly and you do everything straight to a T. But, throwing out tax season, then again, everyone kind of, when you have someone over your shoulder or have some kind of accountability, even if you have a self-accountability partner, you tend to do things more properly. So I think just by
But you don't need that, because you have the public down your throat. Every time you do a mistake, it's plastered all over the news.
But that hasn't changed anything. That hasn't.
It has changed something. It's caused people to resign.
Okay, so there have been changes. So I take it back.
Right,
okay,
the pressure
fixed the problem.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. I don't see how oversighting is going to fix a problem.
And it may not.
It seems like what really needs to happen is you need somebody who has experience, and you need enough money in the budget to completely overhaul the system. Oversight and just having another person looking at you isn't going to resolve this issue. Clearly, these machines are not functional. Clearly, the staff people who are working the machines are not well equipped or educated enough to actually handle these machines or do the proper things that the machines need in order to switch the settings right. There are functional problems that the Secretary of State doing oversight does zero for.
You're absolutely right. And as a part of neither party, if I was a Democrat and this was such an issue and they are, of course, fight fiercely, but it's already been passed. All right, let them do their oversight. And those 4 or 5 things you listed, when it still happens again with the next election, it's because all they're going to do is have to report the same thing, right? There was malfunctions. There were, things, the tabulation was still, there was some kind of errors. Things were delayed. And so now all you have is oversight and you get a report of yet the same thing. And so,
yeah, it doesn't actually fix anything.
You're right. That's a major assumption to put in there. But I think also we had talked a little bit the other day about it. And I think on both sides, every once in a while, each party thinks, oh, well, the next time when I'm voted in, I'm going to fix everything. And if I was just there and if I just had the chance, we would do it right. And that's why we need to take it away from them. So if that is the case, I'm not saying that's what they're doing, but if that is the case, let them try. Let them try. The pendulum swings back and forth, and each year we get, or each couple years we have different sides.
We haven't had an election for this position yet.
So this position has not been, yes, and it's a new position, so I can't say the pendulum has swung. So I think the Republicans just want it first. I don't know.
They want what first?
They want power over it first, before any other. Because I wouldn't say the other person, Longoria, and the gentleman after her, I don't think they vocally stayed their part of party, even though we know that they were.
Well, everyone who's had that position has been a Democrat. All of them. So
I would say Democrats had your chance, and it didn't work. Let someone else have a chance. Get a progressive. Get somebody in the middle. Can we have somebody in the middle? Can we vote for somebody in the middle, people? Because these people on each end are crazy. And they're not fixing things, and they're only fighting with each other, and they're wasting taxpayer dollars and giving themselves more and more things, money to stuff in their pockets. And then we have the same problems. And people who actually took the time out of work or left work early, or they have kids to pick up, they have dinner to make, they have other things to do. Even within early voting, you have other stuff to do. You take the time to go vote, and then the machine's not working, or they change it to paper. Now you have to learn a whole other process. Is delayed. Maybe your back hurts. There's a lot of stuff. People, you can't just tell people, go vote, go vote, go vote. I mean, I feel stupid telling people to go and vote and do all this stuff, and then they get there, and you have all these issues. And like you said, why? It's Harris County. Are people in Dallas having this problem? Are people in South Texas having this issue? And why can't we get it together? And why don't we look at other counties that is working?
And also, I need to make sure that both shares of the Republican Party and the Democratic Party need to get their stuff together as well, because especially with the primaries, right? For the primary elections, the vast majority of that stuff is dictated by them, not by the administrator or, in the past, the county clerk. And so as far as ordering the number of machines, where those locations are going to be, those are all decisions that they're making. If you underestimate how many machines you need at a said location, that's your fault.
Then where were they when all the backlash was coming?
Because the public doesn't really know.
Yeah, and they're not going to voluntarily come and take.
The public's not well informed on how our system works. So, they didn't really receive that much hate. It's always the person who's in the face of the thing, right? And maybe it was a situation where whoever the elected official is, or appointed official for this situation, that they say, hey, through our historical data, you need X amount of machines, and you're over here saying you want to order this many. You need to cough up more money to get this many, because that's how much you're going to need. Or our population is increased, so you really need to get 10 more or 5 more than you think you need.
And a lot of times I'm always like, throwing more money in an issue is not going to work. In this case, I think we need more money. Let's go ahead and open up that vat. Like, we have money in the Texas budget, in the county budget, we can use it on that. We just need to have it allocated properly.
Yeah, I don't have an objection to that. But it's gonna make things more challenging. The mail-in ballots, I can see why somebody would have an issue with that. I can also see why they are advantageous, especially for the elderly who have issues getting out of their house or getting out of their assisted living. And you want them to go vote. Personally, I'm in favor of doing away with polling locations and all of this, in polling machines and all this nonsense. And I don't know why we haven't developed a system where I can be on my couch, I go to a government website, I log in all my information, I verify my identity through maybe uploading my driver's license and a bunch of other stuff that I have to do, and then I just vote off my laptop.
A secure vote. I thought you were about to say an online one. I almost jumped in.
I mean, yeah, I wouldn't just have it just open. You
have to verify the county.
Go ahead and verify.
People would have to have their driver's license and everything updated, but yes.
Right, but banks have instituted this. Whenever you log into a browser that Capital One or Bank of America doesn't recognize, or American Express, what do? They say, hey, we don't recognize this device that you're on.
Yeah.
You need to verify your identity. And so they say, hey, here, we're going to text this number to your cell phone, and they don't even show you the full number. They just show you like the last 4 digits. And so, and then you have to get a thing, and then you have to submit that number, right? For other stuff, if you're trying to get, if you got locked out of your account, you have to send a picture of your ID.
Yeah.
With Facebook, right? If you want to do ads, that have certain categories in nature, like politics or whatever, you have to submit your government ID and all these other things, and a person on the other end has to look at it and all this other stuff. Why can't we institute some technology to make this process simpler and safe and effective?
I know on a smaller scale they've done it for the military servicemen and women, some of them overseas. So it's like specific groups or special groups. I don't know if that was just a pilot program or if it's continued. But yeah, you're right. There have been other ways to secure it for other secure identity checks on other platforms. So
yeah,
our government should be able to do that. We have a government pay app now, so I'm pretty sure they can figure out how to do this one if they wanted to.
Yeah, and then once somebody has logged in their vote, you close it out. So if somebody tried to use their same number and try to vote it again, like a second time, it will just say, "Hey, sorry, you've already voted."
Mm-hmm. That sounds like simple computer science code to me. Error. This number is already associated with the voter, someone who's voted. Yeah. Right.
So that's just my take. And then I would ask a bunch of, put driver's license, put, current address, phone number, put all these different things in there. So that it would make it more difficult for just a rando person to impersonate. Because that's the biggest thing, right? They don't want people impersonating folks.
Well, they don't want that. Well, when you're saying they, who you're speaking about?
Well, the people who have been screaming out impersonations the most have been Republicans.
Yes. So they don't want that. And they're also the same people. Well, actually, in different election years, depending on if it's a presidential election year or not, or an off year, you'll find either side of the party is like trying to make things more difficult to people to get there or give it some ease. So I think this would open up a lot more voters who would not be aware, or they wouldn't take the time to go to the poll, and they want it to stay exactly like that because we don't want those people to come and vote because maybe we wouldn't have as many votes as we needed.
Which, that is one of the criticisms. So one of the biggest criticisms I have with Republicans in general, because I just full disclosure, I don't like either party. So I don't have a leaning towards anyone. I don't really care about parties. I want just to vote and participate in my government.
Shout out to Logic and Reason.
But one of the issues I do have with Republicans is they do spend way too much time trying to keep status quo, gerrymandering different maps to try to keep their little voting by populace, overrepresented. And if you would just spend half of that effort talking to people and telling them about your platform, it's my belief that if your platform is good enough, you should be able to convince people of it. You don't need to do a bunch of trickety tricks to stay in power.
Man, I wish I could remember what we were talking about the one time where you said, but why would people want to compete if they didn't have to, if they could just change the game?
That's true, which means that you're not sincere in your intentions, which means I can't trust you.
Well, maybe not. Or maybe you just think you really believe you have the better platform and it doesn't matter how you win as long as when you get there, you do the things.
No, but you need to sell me. Sell me on your platform. If your platform is that great and it has that much benefit to society, why aren't you educating people on your platform?
Okay, the Republicans have been criticized before, and it's been proven with voting outcomes, especially with the year Barack Obama won, former President Barack Obama won, that they didn't reach out enough or to enough people or to different groups. And now their interest in other groups is because they're like, okay, well, maybe the country's face is changing. Whereas the
country's face has been changing.
It's been changing, but now they're finally accepting, I guess, or not even accepting.
Then you deserve to lose.
And then on the other side, they're overselling. But why are you overselling? Because y'all are also lying. The Democrats, that first of all, well, I'm not going to do any more disclaimers because y'all know. So every episode, if I had to keep saying I'm nonpartisan, the Democrats oversell because they're lying. I mean, Republicans are lying as well, but Democrats really want to push it on so bad so that you don't think. You just do what we want.
When you're saying overselling, what do you mean?
I'm saying pushing it down your throat. You need to vote for this person. You need to, back when there was straight ticket, you need to vote D all the way down. You don't need to look at the names. If you do look at the name, just go to the recognizable name that we put in front of you, continuously. We're the party for everybody, Don't even think about it. Just vote. Just come with us. We will pick you up from your house and drive you there, which on the surface might look like, look at this philanthropic charitable service work. They're bringing the vans of people.
You're treating
No,
people like children.
yes. So that's I guess that's the excessive part that I'm talking about is you want to treat someone like a child. The other people want to leave everyone out, and only their chosen adults get to participate. It's not a good situation because if, as far as I know, in our Constitution, we all are granted the right to vote as citizens of the United States. So who are they to decide who should vote or not vote?
Yeah, I know that's a good point. I think that's solid. That's been my issue. That's been my issue with this whole system. Is it sucks. It's I don't like this divisiveness that we have. I don't like the fact that we fight with each other all the time. I don't get the sense that we all view ourselves as American. We're not thinking about our society as a whole whenever we're making voting decisions. We just want our team to win, and this is not supposed to be. The team is supposed to be America. The team's not supposed to be Republican or Democrat. That's not supposed to be the team. All right, America is supposed to be the team. What's best for the country? What's best for my county? What's best for my state? What's best for my country? Like, those are the things that you're supposed to be thinking about. And if you don't want to take the time to learn about the issues and to try to educate yourself on the propositions that are put on these ballots, or the bills that might be put on the ballot, or the people who are running for these offices, it is my belief that you shouldn't vote. I'm not in favor of somebody voting just to go through the motions. You shouldn't go through the motions when something this important. If you don't know what you're voting for, then you shouldn't vote. I have no problem saying that. But also, our society does not do a very good job of educating people. I've been on record before of blaming our news outlets for doing a poor job of educating people on what's on ballots.
Yeah.
So I won't say it's completely average Joe's fault, because it is a convoluted way of having to find out all this information.
Yeah.
It would be nice if the people who disseminate information all the time would actually go through the process of, all right, guys, we're in election season. We're going to educate you now on the people who are running for this position. Right. Yeah. And they, almost like how people treat sports. Right. We know every single little detail about every athlete. Right. There's an NFL combine. We know their height, their weight. We know how fast they run. We know what their agility time is. We know how fast they can throw the football. We know how long they can throw the football. We know what their bench is. We know what their squad is. We know all the stats they had in college. We know the injury they had in their sophomore year. We can list off all the crap of an athlete when they're getting drafted. And I didn't even know the Secretary of State's name.
You bring me to such great nostalgia of older times when I can't say it was up to that level, but that was almost the case. And I'm not well versed in how news was, but there were at least specific political outlets where there were nonpartisan, informative charts, graphs. They would have, it sounds super boring, and not many people actually participated in politics at that time, but it was, you did get all the numbers. You got backgrounds from different people.
Voting
officials.
histories.
Yeah, voting histories.
Mm-hmm.
The people who were running were actually interested in becoming an elected official to help that district, help the people, and work together with people across the aisle, and to be as a whole American, right? Because even the differences and the diversity of the different districts, it was more to learn from each other and enhance and be like, hey, this worked over here. We're having this issue. Let's exchange ideas and try to implement that over there. And then it's like, okay, well, we only have a certain amount of budget overall, federally, but maybe next go around, we can trade. We can do this, and the next time you can get money for that. Now it's my way or the highway. And some of the stuff is blatant lies in the news outlets. So that's not real reporting to me, but that's not my background, so I can't speak too much on it.
Yeah, I would, if I had any say in any of this stuff. I would do away with a lot of stuff. I think one of the things that we need to do away with too is advertising.
Oh.
Negative ads to me don't serve the country. It doesn't help educate people on what they're voting for. You're just telling somebody, not to vote for that guy. Yeah. You didn't tell them why they should vote for you.
No. And a lot of times it's just like pure entertainment. I'm not sure that
this guy wants to kill babies. Don't vote for him.
Yeah, so because I didn't want to say they lie. They do say something far stretched from the truth, or something that, it's not a blatant lie, but it's not the truth either.
You took a lot of context out.
Yeah. And so you're right. That doesn't help say why you should vote for this guy, but it scares you enough that you're like, now I have enough reasonable doubt to not get the other guy. They said that guy's gonna kill babies. They said this guy's gonna take away my guns. We can't have that.
Right. Yeah, it's and it's unfortunate because we got a presidential election coming up, and it's just going to be an absolute nightmare.
It's going to be wild. If we thought the last several years were wild, this is going to be wild. But you guys have us here. You have us here, and when I say that, I mean the Logic and Reason podcast is going to make sure you are informed, well informed on factual stories. We do not say anything that we don't have full assurance that it's accurate. We do our research.
And if I say, and I'm very honest, right? Even throughout this episode, I've told you, if I didn't know something, I'll say, well, I don't know that one.
Yeah.
I don't have an ego. I'm not really doing this for, to pat my own butt. But I do think that, we need to shift how we're doing certain things. So kind of going back to this topic at hand, we'll see how this pans out. I don't know if this is an effective bill. I don't know if this is really going to do anything. I hope for the best. I hope that, we really put some time and maybe the Secretary of State will give Harris County some more funds to buy the appropriate stuff that need to be purchased. Maybe that's it. Maybe this oversight will be a way to kind of get more funds for this particular office. I don't really know what the issue is. And quite frankly, no one knows what the issue is because we still don't have any data on what happened the last election that caused it to be such a debacle, which makes it really hard to solve a problem if you don't have any information. I can't solve an issue if I don't even know what the issue even is.
Wow. Yeah.
Right? So that's...
What am I fixing?
So that's a huge problem. So hopefully Mr. Clifford gets some assistance. He seems to be a fair enough guy. But, we have another election coming up. So we got to, it's not like a situation where we can just keep kicking this can down the road. We're going to continually have problems. The best thing I can say about, the average Joe, you and I, is to try your best to vote during early voting. I mean, I would just try to stay away from election day as much as possible because it's going to be a nightmare.
Oh, that's true. And some of your people won't make it if you don't vote for them early voting.
I mean,
not early voting, but the primaries, my bad.
That's what it is. If you have a really old abuelita who, is having a hard time walking, you might need to go pick her up and be like, hey, vamos. Like, you might need to take her out.
Yeah, because the worst thing is getting to the general election, and it's like, wow, well, now I have to pick the best of the, what is it called? Of the two worst options here.
Oh, yeah. And, that is another good point. Before we, I know we're kind of running long today, but one other point I wanted to make is it is very important to vote in primaries because that whole feeling that you have of, the lesser of two evils.
There we go.
Yeah, that type of feeling really stems from the fact that you don't have any stake in either one of the people who is on the ballot. You have a say whenever you're in the primary because that's when, all right, cool. I don't necessarily like this guy, but I like this guy, right? And maybe that guy doesn't win, but at least you had your voice heard on that one. I've had plethora of primaries that the guy that or lady that I voted for did not get elected, but I am the type of dude, if I didn't like you in the primary, I'm not going to like you in the general election either. So
we're very fair about our like and dislike.
Hey,
here.
Look,
and honest, like you said.
It's 100% facts. I will not be voting for Joe Biden. That's just what it is. I don't care how dire it is. It could be an orange monkey on the other side of that ballot. I won't be voting for the orange monkey either. I would just be writing in somebody because I don't like either one of these candidates.
Well, now you can because we have paper.
And let me actually bite back a little bit too. I'm going on a rant here. For those of you who say that you're wasting your vote whenever you don't vote for A or B, all of you can kiss my butt. You can't tell me who to vote for. I'm an American. It's my, constitutional right to vote for who I want to. And if I don't like either party, the people that they brought up, I don't have to do nothing. If I wanted to, I could write in Mickey Mouse. If that's what I want to do, it's my prerogative. It's my vote.
It is your vote.
Now, to be, for all disclosure purposes, I don't vote for Mickey Mouse. But the point is, telling people that they have a wasted vote if they're voting for a libertarian or a Green Party person or someone else is doing everybody a disservice, because that means that wasn't an honest vote. That means that the public is not being honest and the fact that they are not fully behind this person just because we happen to condense ourselves down to two parties. This is why a third party can't actually win. It's because we are not honest with our votes and are willing to take a chance on that third party person if we don't like either Republican or Democrat.
Yep.
Because you're assuming, because of peer pressure, you're going to lose, you're going to waste your vote if you... No, don't listen to people like that. I hate people who say stuff like that because you're only interested in your agenda.
That's true. Your agenda, what you want, and trying to exercise it on someone else. I don't really have much to add to that because you said it was a rant, but no, it's kind of a throwdown, like mic drop.
I mean, you can come after me in the comment section if you want to. I don't care because I'm a grown adult. I can do what I want.
They will come, though.
They will. Anyway, guys, that's today's show. Although I did, say that people should exercise their freedoms. You don't have freedom when it comes to like and subscribe.
Oh, my goodness. He's joking. Obviously.
Go ahead and like that. We're going to see you guys on Thursday. Hopefully we'll show up on time. We'll see how this goes.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see you guys next time.